Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a topic that has been making major headlines lately and honestly causing a whole lot of anxiety in nurseries everywhere. I mean, as if parents weren't exhausted enough already, right? We're going to be distilling some medically reviewed advice today to get to the absolute bottom of a major diaper bag controversy, baby powder. So we're going to clear the air, literally, and look at exactly what the science and pediatric experts are saying right now. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Is baby powder actually safe? It's an incredibly urgent question, and it's on the mind of virtually every expectant parent, grandparent, and caregiver out there. For decades, a bottle of baby powder was just an assumed part of having a newborn. It was literally as essential as diapers and wipes. But with some recent, pretty serious warnings from experts, we really need to take a closer look at what's actually happening when we dust our babies with this stuff.
Hey, before we get into those warnings, let's establish exactly why generations of parents have relied on this in the first place. Baby powder has these wonderful smoothing, anti-caking properties. It works by absorbing moisture and preventing friction. And let's be real, when you're running on 2 hours of sleep and you're just trying to soothe a painful diaper rash on your baby's delicate skin, keeping that area dry and friction-free is exactly what you want to do. So it makes total sense why it became such a massive staple.
Section 1. Talc versus cornstarch.
So for a really long time, the primary ingredient in traditional baby powder was talcum powder, or talc. Now, talc is just a naturally occurring mineral. It's made from a very specific combination of magnesium, silicon, oxygen, and hydrogen. And this unique mineral foundation, that's exactly what gives traditional powders that incredibly soft, smooth, absorbent feel that we all kind of recognize.
However, the whole landscape of the baby care aisle has shifted pretty dramatically in recent years. Because of mounting safety concerns, a lot of major manufacturers have actually stopped using traditional talc altogether. Instead, they've shifted toward using cornstarch as their modern alternative. So it's a fundamental change in the chemical makeup of the product, and it's been driven entirely by strict safety evaluations.
Section 2. Real risks for babies.
And this brilliantly illustrates why those changes were made. The American Academy of Pediatrics has issued a really direct warning here, stating that baby powder can cause breathing trouble and lung damage for babies if they inhale the particles. The core problem is just that it is incredibly hard to keep powder out of the air. Talc-based powders have these tiny, easily inhaled particles that absolutely irritate delicate lungs. Plus, there is this severe added concern that talc might expose babies to asbestos, which actually naturally occurs right near talc in the earth.
Now, while any baby's tiny lungs can be irritated by inhaled powder, specific groups are way more vulnerable. If your child is premature, if they have congenital heart disease, or maybe a history of RSV or frequent respiratory bugs, their risk level is significantly higher. For these infants, even just a tiny bit of airborne powder can trigger some really serious respiratory distress.
At this point, you might be thinking, well, I use the modern cornstarch version, so I'm totally in the clear. But here is the critical distinction we have to make. The mechanics of the danger are what matter most. Both talc-based and cornstarch-based powders can be inhaled. The risk isn't just about the specific mineral, it's the airborne cloud of dust itself. So anytime you create a dust cloud near a baby's face, you're introducing an inhalation risk.
Section 3. The cancer question.
Okay, you've likely seen the scary headlines on the news, but we really need to separate the specific risks to adults from the risks to babies. So the crucial point is that in the past, talc has been linked to ovarian cancer, but that risk was found in adult women who used baby powder near their genitals, which allowed the talc to enter the reproductive system. And what about the lung cancer risk? Well, that evidence usually looks at people exposed to massive industrial volumes of talc. We're talking about miners and mill workers on the job, not everyday use.
To put it plainly, and hopefully offer you some reassurance here, using baby powder during standard diaper changes is not typically associated with any cancer risk for your baby, especially if the talc doesn't contain asbestos. The really severe cancer statistics that we see in the news, those are driven by those specific long-term adult exposures we just looked at, not your everyday standard diapering practices.
Section 4. Safer alternatives and usage.
Let's move to IAS and see how this builds a safer routine for you. If your baby isn't high risk and you still decide you want to use powder, the AAP says to do so very sparingly and safely. First up, never shake it directly on or near the baby. Instead, put the powder on your hands first, stepping completely away from the baby to do so. Second, you want to gently pat the powder onto the diaper area. Please don't create a cloud. And third, make sure to wash away any accumulated powder at every single diaper change so it doesn't build up and cause skin irritation.
And here is a super vital, totally practical tip. Keep those powder containers well out of reach of your baby, and honestly, any older siblings too. As any parent knows, a toddler's favorite game is grabbing whatever you're using, right? You absolutely do not want small hands knocking that bottle over or squeezing it, which can suddenly produce a massive, super concentrated cloud of inhalable powder.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer variety of options we have now. If you want to skip to powder entirely, you have some fantastic talc-free options. Cornstarch-based powder removes that scary asbestos concern, though remember, the inhalation risk is definitely still there. If you look right in your own pantry, baking soda, tapioca, or arrowroot starch are great plant-based alternatives. But if you just want to avoid dust entirely, petroleum jelly provides an excellent ointment-based moisture barrier, and of course those classic zinc oxide creams remain incredibly effective for treating and preventing diaper rash.
We've looked at the chemical makeup, the real respiratory dangers of the dust cloud, the reality behind those scary cancer headlines, and the safest alternatives available to parents today. Based on all of this medically reviewed evidence we've walked through, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Is it time to rethink your diaper bag? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking those important questions.